So today we are having a conversation about preventive health in the United States. And usually in our Ukrainian community, people go to the doctor when something really bad happened in their life. But how does prevention health work in the US health system?
Okay, so they distinguish between preventive care and reactive care. What you just described, when someone feels sick and goes to a doctor, that's what they call here reactive care.
Yeah.
And versus preventive care, this is considered way more cost efficient. And these days, with the aging population and with the increasing population and not that much increasing number of medical personnel, the government is very much focused on the preventive care. And preventive care means several things. One of them is knowing the risk factors. The risk factors for cardiovascular diseases, the risk factors for cancer. Something very basic like smoking is bad because it may cause cancer, right?
Yeah.
Or lifestyle, you should eat healthy, or you should exercise. Simple things like that I guess people almost everybody knows about, but not everybody appreciates the significance of that. So risk factors is number one component of the preventive care. Another one is regular screening. Screening. So starting at a certain age, people should do screening. Women should start doing mammograms after age 50, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And watching your blood pressure, watching your basic characteristics like when they do blood work and when they do counts and when they can figure out if something is abnormal with your cholesterol levels, things like that. So that's regular screening. So those two are the major things about the preventive care. And of course, people should not delay treatment if they see that their blood pressure is out of control or cholesterol is out of control. It means you should do something right now.
Yeah, usually, speaking about screening, usually people also in a preventive health point are thinking about vaccination. How about that?
Right. Yeah, that's another component of the preventive care. I'm glad you mentioned that. Vaccinations, right. Vaccinations is something that most of us are familiar from our childhood.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we need them being adult?
Well, those of us who did not get those vaccines when we were children, we should, the famous MMR, measles, mumps, rubella combined in one vaccine. Then tetanus vaccine. There's a certain number of vaccines that are not lifetime. Like MMR is lifetime or almost lifetime vaccination.
Yeah.
Tetanus, for example, is required every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, we live in the post-pandemic era of COVID-19, and COVID-19 mutates fast. So we do need those vaccines, although I know that many people are disappointed with them. The initial hope was that 1 or 2 shots should be sufficient.
Yeah.
To be immune to COVID forever. Unfortunately, it's not the case because COVID is mutating very fast, somewhat similarly to the flu viruses, and therefore the pharmaceutical companies need to update this vaccine constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they release at least every 6 months. They release an updated one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And okay, speaking about the vaccination, there are a lot of theories circulating about that topic. For example, the most famous one that government is trying to control us. You do not need to do so many vaccines as they require you. That is how, in general, vaccination work.
Let's go one step back and remind ourselves very briefly in a very simplistic way how our immune system works.
Yeah.
Because that would be helpful. So we evolved in such a way that when common pathogens, viruses, and bacteria that we encounter on a daily basis, when they penetrate our skin or when they go through through our nose and they go into our breathing system, our immune cells, the cells of our immune system, are capable of recognizing them. We evolved in such a way that we can recognize thousands of common pathogens. And this is why we don't get sick on a daily basis, right? So if a pathogen that is known to our immune system gets somehow in the body, our immune system recognizes it immediately and we don't get sick because immune system getting activated very fast and this pathogen is being killed, or we get sick but in a very mild way. Now, what happens if a pathogen that our immune system has not learned before to recognize, or a pathogen that we did not evolve to recognize, like COVID-19, that is a new virus. Right?
Yeah, that was
What happens then, right? So the component of the immune system that is capable of recognizing pathogens immediately is called innate immune system. And then there is also adaptive immune system. Adaptive immune system consists of cells that gradually learn to recognize a new pathogen, right? So first they recognize that something is wrong, something is foreign is in the body. Okay?
Yeah.
They can't recognize what it is. But eventually they're capable of learning and recognizing these viruses, these new viruses. But the problem is that it takes several days. Typically, for the activation of adaptive immune system, you need between 3 and 7 days.
And sometimes it could be too long.
Exactly. And 3 to 7 days, if the pathogen is bad, like COVID, it's in many cases it's bad and very lethal. It's enough to do the damage and either kill the host or bring to do lots of damage and cause a severe disease. So at the very end of 18th century, people came up with a certain idea. They did not realize at the time what they were doing, but they started to introduce into healthy bodies pieces of bacteria or viral pieces, either parts of them or deactivated ones, practically dead ones. Something that would train our immune system to recognize them.
It's like
Right.
doing exercises in the morning.
Oh,
For our immune system, I mean.
it's more about recognition. Actually, it's more about recognition because the way the immune cell recognize pathogens is by the receptors, right? The proteins on the surface of that virus or bacteria. So if you introduce just a part of virus, right, or that bacteria, it doesn't have to be active bacteria, right? All we need is to show to the immune system how the outside of this pathogen looks like, what proteins constitute the surface of that, of the viral particle or bacteria. Okay, so and then our immune system learns to recognize, say, dead bacteria, right? But when live bacteria of the same kind arrives to our body, the immune system already knows and recognizes it immediately. It doesn't take 3 to 7 days to activate it. It activates immediately.
And then our body knows what to do with that.
Right.
How to fight
right.
the bacteria, how to stay healthy, how to not to provoke so much damage as that bacteria can do.
Correct. So MMR, take that vaccine for example. Measles can be pretty bad disease, and it's very viral. It spreads out very quickly.
And it was just this autumn when in Oregon they fixed about maybe 40 cases of measles still.
Right, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if our immune system can recognize that virus immediately, we just don't get sick.
Yeah.
We're not even aware of something happening. This virus gets into our lungs or somehow else, and immediately the immune system is triggered, and it kills this virus in a matter of hours. Well, because there is always someone who doesn't get vaccinated, or because in many cases animals carry those same viruses, and we get it from animals. Recently, the vaccination hesitancy, what they call it these days, vaccination hesitancy is unwillingness to get vaccinated. It surfaced up again because of COVID and those outbreaks of measles that you mentioned. It's happening in our country. It's happening in the other countries, and this is because many people just deciding not to get their kids vaccinated. And measles spreads very quickly. For every pathogen, we learned that on the average, there's a characteristic called R0. It's the average people that one sick person can transmit to their virus in an average environment, right? And for measles, it runs between 12 to 18. So that's considered very, very viral.
Yeah.
And and there is also another thing that we should mention, named herd immunity. Herd immunity is a situation when in the population you have enough people who are vaccinated against measles, for example.
Yeah.
So that if outbreak happens, it's very limited. Okay.
Because you have like enough people vaccinated, so they like protect the other people who, for example, is too old to get vaccinated, or the
it's
kids, newborns.
Right. Is so large number of vaccinated people means that there are a small number of susceptible people. Small number of susceptible people guarantees that even if outbreak is taking place, this outbreak is limited. It will be limited to few people, not more than that. So in the case of measles, for herd immunity, it's required that 95% of the population is vaccinated.
Oh, wow, it's kind of high percentage.
Yeah. For comparison, for COVID, it's around 80-85%.
Well, mentioning COVID, and you mentioned that after COVID times, and we are living just after COVID times, this trust to the vaccines in general was destroyed. So what needs to be done, to build the trust again for?
Yeah, that's a problem. But first thing to recognize is that there's nothing new about it. There's nothing new about vaccination hesitancy. Every major vaccine that was released on the market had its opponents. Okay, we can say the same about MMR. We can say this about polio. Like those vaccines were discovered in waves, if you will, because every additional method of vaccination, when as it was discovered, it was immediately applied to a number of bacteria or viruses, to a number of new pathogens that previously we did not have vaccine for. So those vaccines appeared in waves, and every wave of developing a new type of vaccine was met with skepticism and hesitancy. And this is perfectly understandable. People are afraid of injecting something in their bodies. They're afraid of side effects, whatever. There was very notable case that lasted case of misinformation that lasted for several years In 1998, a British scientist named Andrew Wakefield published a paper in prestigious journal Lancet. It's probably the most prestigious medical journal in the world, published in England. Yeah, and in that paper, he claimed that he made a link between the MMR vaccine and autism. And he studied just 12 children, which is a very small sample. There were other flaws in this study. And his logic was that, look, we observe increasing number of autism diagnoses. Why is this happening? That in fact is true. That's what's happening. We see more and more autism diagnoses, but there are various explanations for this. So his explanation was that it is linked to the MMR vaccine, and when something claim of such proportion is being made in the scientific literature, other scientists rush to check that. Right, and there was no confirmation. People checked that on larger number of participants, larger numbers of children, and it was not confirmed. And gradually, co-authors of Wakefield, they started to withdraw their names. They started to recognize there was something flawed in that study, and eventually it turned out that there was a lawyer firm who paid Wakefield about $750,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, converting British pounds to dollars, just for him to conduct that study. They were interested for this study to be successful. They were interested in representing those families where parents had autistic children. They wanted to have a huge mega lawsuit against producers of the MMR vaccine.
Oh, wow,
So
that makes sense. And when the misinformation starts flying around, it's really hard to stop it, even with
Exactly. So that paper was withdrawn. Every scientist who put their name, they lost their reputation. The main author, Andrew Wakefield, his medical license was revoked, of course. So, and it was proven beyond any doubt in the scientific community that this is just wrong. Okay, there is no connection between MMR vaccine and autism. But somehow, like you said, you initiate a rumor, especially if this is a scary rumor.
Yeah.
And as far as science is concerned, as far as the scientific community is concerned, the case is closed, right? It was fake.
Yeah, but it's too boring to read then about all these lawsuits, about this declaiming his license or so. It's interesting. I pretty sure that people even do not remember who was that scientist, and you do remember the name. You do have
Right.
this critical thinking. So that is we need for our health decision in any country we live, right? So we do need to see the first source of information. We do need to go to our doctor to ask for reliable information concerning our health, not to read something in some kind of Facebook group or so. Yeah.
Really need to use your head to understand what's going on. So for me, luckily, I have access to the medical literature, to professional literature,
Yeah.
to professional publications, and I know how to read it. So for me, this task is easier, of course. And when first vaccine was released, I myself, as being a HSU employee, I had a chance to get it like one of the first in Portland, right? And I didn't rush. I spent a couple of days just learning the publications about that vaccine, and I came to conclusion that in my age and in my condition, the risk of vaccination would be lesser than the risk of not vaccinating. And all those people who believe that they may get bad adverse reaction or things like that, it may indeed happen. the risks have been hugely exaggerated in sources like Facebook or other social media, but it's true that we can get adverse reaction from practically any vaccine, including COVID vaccine as well. So the right way to think about it is to see where is more risk.
Yeah,
right? Like
at least to compare the level of risk.
right.
And like my last question is, and I feel that I know the answer, but still, because you just mentioned a little, when you are talking to the expert from the ordinary person, the first question is, do you take the whole vaccines you need in your life?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And like I said, when they first released the very first vaccine that arrived to OHSU, it was I believe it was in January of 2021.
You mean COVID one?
The COVID, yeah. So I read very carefully the papers. I didn't want to blindly agree to get vaccinated either, right? I read very carefully all the information that was available back then on that specific vaccine, and I arrived to the conclusion that I will be taking less risk if I go and get vaccinated. And yes, I am vaccinated. I think all common vaccines, I have them.
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. It was really interesting and really profound in just a simple words about important thing in our life, about vaccination, about our health, about preventive health. And just to summarize, I want to advise our community, stay healthy, continue learning everything in this world, and also take wise decisions about your family, yourself, and your kids. Thank you so much.